I have two Van George stories to share with you. Van George is a metaphysician. He studied under Ernest Holmes and Dr. Clark. He is an amazing representative of metaphysical lifestyle, that we create our own reality. So these two stories that he's given me permission to share are a great example of how life works. In the army or the war, whatever he was a trainer, a cadet trainer, and then he fought in the war and led men and all kinds of stuff. Many stories there, fascinating stories. So he had an opportunity to come to America because he saved a bunch of lives. And the colonel who he's, saved or whatever, said, look, come to America, we'll take care of you, we'll help you, and all of that. And Van George had shrapnel in his brain towards the end of the war, and the hospitals could not help him. His classmate from school, who he trained as a cadet leader, had him come over for dinner. His father happened to be a general. And he said, Dad, look, Van George has an invitation to go to America. He can't get the paperwork. He can't leave the country. Can you do something? Please, I want you to do something for my Van George. So the general worked it out, and he got sent over there. When he came to America, they went to the Mayo Clinic, however you say it, and they were able to pull out the shrapnel through a magnetic type of procedure and pull all of that out. He had his full brain capacity come back and was very successful in his life because he wanted to be fearless about everything he did, because he had a second chance. He lived a life of gratitude. So he said, I've been given this life, so what am I going to do with it? And I want to be the best, and I want to do the best, and I live fearlessly. He said the enemy is never the enemy. The enemy is fear. No fear. You must do everything fearlessly. That's something I've learned from him. So many years later, the brother of his classmate, Boris, said, hey, I want to come to America. He's like, great, I'll help you. So he was sending him money little by little when it was time to come, because they had saved enough up. He's like, I'm in love and I want to get married. And Van George is like, well, what does that mean? How does that work? And he's like, I don't know. He said, go check the paperwork out. But if they got married, you could do like a 2-for-1 special, and he could come to America. So he came to America. Van George opened up his home, and he and his new bride lived with them for like a year till they got on their feet. And then Van George bought them a house. To this day, the woman is still living in the house. Boris since died. And she writes him all the time, hello, how are you? So grateful. I love this house. And you see, the general gave the favor to Van George to come live in America. And in turn, Van George was able to repay that family by helping Boris come to the States, bought him a home. And because of his success, it's around circular, energetic success. Everybody wins. The general wins. Van George wins. Boris wins. Boris's brother, the classmate, wins. It's just this full circle of success and gratitude and sharing. So that's the first story. The second story, which is one of my favorite stories, is he was home just listening to some music, relaxing in his living room, and he hears the door being rattled. And he's like, that's someone trying to break into my house. So he gets up and he's like, come on in. And he opens the door, and the guy's staring. He was too frozen to run. He's just staring them. Man, come on in. Come in. So what's going on? And the guy's just like, He's like, why are you breaking into my house? And he finally said, my wife just had the baby, but there's complications and we need more money. And I just don't know what to do. I don't have anywhere to turn. So this is the only thing I could think of to do to help my wife and my son, my baby. And Bajor said, oh. He said, well, how much do you need? And the guy's like, I need. So Van George, just a moment. And he goes and he comes back and he gives him cash. And he gives him $50 more than he asked for. And he didn't tell me how much he needed. He just said, I gave him the money. And he said, and if you need more, come back. And he didn't see the guy again. 4 years later, the man comes over with his wife and his little boy and a handful of money. And he said, here, I wanted to pay you back. And I wanted more so to introduce you to my son, whose life you saved. So you conclude how being fearless can pay off. How when we give, we get way more. I would love to hear your comments. Thank you.